The story of Atlantis, an advanced civilization that vanished beneath the ocean, has undoubtedly become familiar to many. However, not everyone knows that legends from around the world also preserve stories of many other forgotten civilizations. These modern cities might have been buried beneath desert sands or shrouded by tropical rainforests. Although such stories were often dismissed as fictional in the past, a growing number of archaeological discoveries have proven that these legends were not merely products of imagination. This leaves us wondering, how many other lost cities are waiting to be discovered, even if we may never find the ruins of Atlantis beneath the ocean? The golden streets of El Dorado or the serene mountains of Shangri-La, all these lost cities have ultimately been traced by archaeologists. 10. Helike, Greece, the real Atlantis. Homer mentioned the ancient city of Helike in his works, an ancient civilization once located in the Achaia region of western Greece. Helike is believed to share two similarities with the legendary city of Atlantis. A culture that was inherently advanced and rich in identity, yet its fate tragically descended into a sorrowful demise. Located in a coastal position, Helike was once an extremely important economic, cultural, and political center. Moreover, this place served as the convergence point for leaders from 12 neighboring cities during a governmental meeting on diplomacy. On a winter night in 373 BC, the entire city of Helike was suddenly and mysteriously destroyed. Several warning signs of the impending disaster were recorded, including the appearance of giant columns of fire, and the phenomenon of mass migration of small animal species from coastal areas deep inland to higher mountainous regions just before the disaster struck. A major earthquake is likely to occur. Following that, a tsunami from the Gulf of Corinth swept in, completely erasing the city of Helike from the face of the earth. The next morning, when the rescue team arrived at the scene, they did not find a single survivor. The Helike site was only rediscovered in 1988 by two archaeologists. After more than a decade of searching underwater, they finally realized that what they had been seeking was buried right beneath the ground under their feet. The city's destruction was not caused by Poseidon. The ancient Greeks must have felt the same way. The alluvial soil has caused liquefaction, creating deep voids within the ground and forming a marshy area. Finally, after a long period, this area was silted up by the river, which explains why it rose above the water's surface. Number 9. Kwa, India. This place is considered the abode of Lord Krishna. In Hinduism, the ancient city of Kwa is described as the most advanced city among all cities. This is where Lord Krishna once lived. He lived 5,000 years ago but is still worshipped as a god to this day. According to legend, Kwa was described as the wealthiest among the ancient cities. Designed by an architect exclusively for the gods, this place boasts over 900,000 magnificent palaces. According to legend, Krishna commanded Kwa to build 16,000 palaces, each one serving as the residence for one of his 16,000 queens. Finally, the city was destroyed in a battle, perhaps a war with nature itself, as the structures and fortresses fell one by one before the might of the sea. At first glance, the image of that city seems as though it has stepped right out of a work of fiction. In 1983, underwater ruins were discovered, including an ancient seaport matching the description of Kwa. Between the current mainland and the nearby islands, researchers have found compelling evidence. The existence of a city dating back 9,000 years. The oldest parts of Kwa may have been built as far back as 32,000 years ago, when it became one of the oldest cities ever known on Earth. At its peak, Kwa was one of the wealthiest seaports in the world. Then, around the 2nd millennium BC, the city collapsed and sank into the sea. As in mythological tales, today, Kwa remains a mysterious site due to insufficient excavation and research. People living in the area rarely discuss this issue. 8. Krai Simpakwe Castle, a medieval African fortress. At the beginning of the 16th century, Portuguese explorers, they recounted the legendary tales they themselves had once heard. A castle hidden within an African rainforest. The indigenous people recount that there was a towering stone fortress, rising high above the treetops, in the region now known as Simpakwe. They call it Simpakwe, but even the locals don't know who built this structure. A European explorer once noted that this place possessed an almost uncanny uniqueness. This cannot be a product created by humans. For centuries, Europeans believed that Simpakwe was merely a fictional character. Then, around 1876, German explorers found it. A massive stone castle with statues over 11 meters tall, built in 900 AD by an African civilization lost to time. A civilization, somehow, possessed an astonishing connection to the outside world. Inside the fortress, the German expedition discovered countless artifacts and relics collected from all over the world. They discovered Arab coins, Persian pottery, and even relics from China's Ming dynasty. The significance of Ray Simpakwe extends far beyond the architecture of the castle. At the same time, it also serves as evidence that an African civilization, long forgotten in the flow of history, once engaged in trade with distant cultures such as China. Number 7. Kublai Khan Palace, Chengdu, China. In 1278, the explorer Marco Polo returned from China and what is now Inner Mongolia, bringing with him extraordinarily impressive descriptions of Kublai Khan's empire. Among these, the most notable is Xanadu, also transliterated as Chengdu, the palace of the Great Khan. According to Marco Polo's accounts, Xanadu was a magnificent palace made of marble. The palace was surrounded by a vast park extending up to 26 kilometers, adorned with fountains, meandering streams, and teeming with all kinds of wild animals. Here, according to legend, Dai Kang kept 10,000 pure white horses and a palace of gold and jade, all guarded by dragons. In short, Xanadu is truly a paradise, unmatched by any other place on earth. This palace was destroyed by the Ming army in 1369, before European explorers had the chance to behold it. A century passed, and Xanadu became a legend, a place poets often mentioned in verses, but it was all merely imagined images. Then, in 1872, a British diplomat discovered the palace of Kublai Khan. At that time, the marble veins and bricks were still intact, though they were later dismantled. Marco Polo was not exaggerating in the slightest. The Great Khan's palace was indeed twice the size of the White House and was surrounded by an extensive park-like compound. This place once housed a wildlife sanctuary that gathered species from all over the world, exactly as recounted in the legends. Actually, all areas of the palace had sand ramps for horses, and those dragons were merely dragon statues molded onto the gates. Some of these artifacts have been successfully preserved by archaeologists. Number 6. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka, the eighth wonder of the world. In the 5th century AD, in Sri Lanka, King Kashyapa built a stone fortress atop a massive rock, jutting out 200 meters into the dense jungle. This structure is still considered the most impressive construction project in Sri Lanka's history. This site includes a royal fortress, expansive gardens, a stone theater, fountains, and artistic murals. To enter the main area, visitors must cross a large bridge spanning a rock crevice, alongside a stone lion statue carved directly into the cliff face. At one point in history, Sri Riya was initially used as a military outpost before being converted into a Buddhist monastery. However, from a once magnificent palace, this place has been abandoned for nearly 500 years. Subsequently, in 1890, European archaeologists verified and authenticated the existence of this legend, including the stone lion statues surrounding Thanglong Bridge, where one must pass through a lion's mouth to step onto the bridge. Even after centuries, this architectural masterpiece known as the Sky Palace continues to amaze archaeologists. In 2001, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, honored Sri Riya as the eighth wonder of the world. Today, those ruins have become a famous tourist destination. Number 5. Leptis Magna, the Roman city buried by sand. Leptis Magna was once a beautiful coastal city and a vital commercial port in the region of Lyptia, before it was invaded by barbarian tribes in 439 AD. The city was buried under sandstorms. Leptis Magna was the birthplace of the Roman Emperor Septimius Severus. He expanded the city, turning it into one of the world's most important centers. But when the Roman Empire fell, Leptis Magna could not escape that same fate. The city was plundered by Arab invaders, then left in ruins and utterly forgotten. For 1,200 years, Leptis Magna lay completely buried beneath the desert sands. It remained almost perfectly preserved until its discovery by 19th-century archaeologists. Their joy was not only in discovering the aquifers and the tools, but also in excavating the entire city. Leptis Magna still retains an intact amphitheater, stone-paved platforms, and a grand basilica, and a dedicated area for horse racing games. All were miraculously preserved by the sand, looking exactly as they did when the city was still inhabited. Some people remark that visiting Leptis Magna is like stepping into a time machine, transporting them back thousands of years. 4. Vinland, the Viking legend's promised land. Dark Ages. Danish explorer Sven Edric Sen once spoke of a lush and fertile land located far across the Atlantic Ocean. He named this land Vinlands because, in his view, it had naturally growing and lush green grapevines. In 1073, a German cleric named Adam of Bremen recorded stories told by the King of Denmark. He further added that the king's soldiers were originally Viking warriors from Denmark. They had once battled the native inhabitants of Vinland, whom they called the Skrælings. According to the description, Strelinger wore white clothing and lived in caves and rock crevices. As they attacked, they carried long sticks, shouted resounding war cries, and charged straight into the battlefield. Due to confusion about Vinland's actual location, the story of this land was later regarded as a myth for centuries. It was not until the 1960s that this mystery was solved, when archaeologists discovered the remains of an 11th century Viking settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. This astonishing discovery not only confirms the accuracy of the thousand-year-old records by Adam of Raymond. Moreover, it confirms that Europeans were present in North America very early, much earlier than previously known historical records indicate. The Vikings reached the North American continent 500 years before Columbus discovered this land. 3. Heracleion, the sunken Egyptian city. The city of Heracleion features prominently in many Greek myths. This is where Hercules first set foot in Africa. This is also where Paris of Troy and his abducted wife, Helen, fled from Menelaus before the Trojan War erupted. And like most other legends, we cannot know where that city was located, or even if it truly existed. In reality, this mystery exists for a perfectly valid reason. The city was submerged in a sea of water. Approximately 2,200 years ago, the city of Heracleion was likely destroyed by an earthquake or a massive tsunami that struck the Egyptian coast. This city had lain deep underwater for centuries, off the northern coast of Egypt. In 2001, while searching for French warships on the seabed, an archaeologist accidentally discovered what appeared to be a sunken city. When the divers resurfaced, carrying a strange piece of rock they had just retrieved from the wreckage, they suddenly realized it was the remnant of an ancient Greek statue. Archaeologists dug deep through the layers of sand to excavate a nearly perfectly preserved city, where many treasures remained in their original state. There, they discovered the city's main temple. The colossal statues of the pharaohs, along with hundreds of smaller statues depicting portraits of gods and goddesses. An ancient merchant ship, with 64 oars and no fewer than 700 anchors. These stone blocks have inscriptions carved in ancient Greek and Egyptian. Dozens of coffins, gold coins, and numerous other artifacts crafted from bronze and stone. Divers even discovered large stone steles inscribed with hieroglyphs, warning visitors about Egypt's tax laws. The discovery of the ancient city of Heracleion is considered one of the most significant underwater archaeological finds of the century. Number 2. La Ciudad Verdadera, Colombia, the Lost City. About 1,300 years ago, an ancient South American tribe called the Tairona built wooden structures atop rocks, towering amidst the pristine mountains of the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. Legend has it that this city was built by the command of its patron deity, who wished for their people to live closer to the stars. This city had existed and thrived for hundreds of years, until the Tupania invaded, bringing with them diseases that swept across the land. After the last inhabitants passed away, the city lay in ruins for centuries. It wasn't until the 1970s that this city was discovered by a group of people who happened to pass through the forest. The ancient city, overgrown with vegetation, still preserves gold jewelry and jade artifacts in pristine condition. After secretly taking away any items they could find, they sold them on the black market, which caught the attention of archaeologists. The government swiftly implemented intervention measures to protect this area. Currently, it is known by only a single name. The city had been lost for nearly 500 years, hidden deep within the dense jungle. Quirta Blanca, also known as the White City or the Lost City of the Monkey God, is the #1 destination. At the beginning of the 15th century, the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés failed in his search for the lost cities rumored to hold immense wealth in the tropical regions of Honduras. Centuries later, while flying over this area, Charles Lindbergh claimed he had seen the white stone walls of a city emerging from within the jungle. Then, in 1939, an American explorer and spy named Chet Ormond returned from this region, bringing with him many artifacts. And that is a complex story about a unique temple, long hidden amidst the ruins. He shared that the tour guides told him a 1,000-year-old legend about a monkey that kidnapped 3 women. With a mouth like that, don't talk about mating, lest you give birth to children who are half human, half beast. A detailed description of the monkey carvings within the temple, along with a large rock imprinted with the image of the monkey god. But he never revealed the exact location where he discovered it, believing that he feared it would be excavated and stolen. Shortly thereafter, the moderator passed away by suicide, before they could return to Honduras. Meanwhile, his diary was found by someone and revealed that the real purpose of the trip was to search for gold. Moreover, his reputation was tarnished, and the very existence of this lost city became a subject of controversy. Although the surrounding areas had been excavated, the lost city of the monkey god remained only a legend until very recently. In 2012, a new technology called LiDAR, which uses light to detect and measure distance, revealed the shape of ruins across a vast area of dense jungle. While exploring this area, explorer Douglas Preston discovered sculptures at the foot of an earthen pyramid. He recounted that it was the first time he had seen a sign carved in relief from the ground, shimmering under the rain. It surged upward violently, as if struggling to break free from the earth. That was the image that had traversed centuries to speak directly to me. Create an instant emotional connection with the departed. Leave the impression of a confident, accomplished, and deeply respected individual. Through the ancient graves, shrouded in the ethereal mist, I could almost sense the presence of unseen beings here. However, to obtain this discovery, we had to pay a hefty price, facing dangerous drug gangs and deadly venomous snakes. Many members of Preston's team returned home only to discover they had been infected with a deadly, flesh-eating parasite. Archaeologists have excavated vast plazas, burial mounds, earthen pyramids, and dozens of intricately carved artifacts. This cultural landscape remains an enigma, and we know very little about the people of that era. This is precisely why, if these magnificent discoveries could reveal something, perhaps this shows, no legend is too glorious to become reality.